Right, welcome back to the program. You're still watching Daily Politics on Trust TV. Here's a quick reminder: you can watch the show on the go by joining our YouTube and Facebook live streams. In case you missed it, both the President, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and his vice, Kashim Shettima, are out of the country right now. And most say, why is that happening? I mean, this is not the first time it has happened, but it is quite unusual. But beyond that is the conversation around these international travels that have happened over the past 1 year and 6 months too very often. The President and the Vice President collectively in just 7 months have been away from the country for well over 91 days. And Nigerians are asking the question, what is the value of all of these travels, especially one that is coming at the expense of public treasury? Let's bring in Salaudeen Hashim, who is a public affairs analyst, also joining us virtually here in Abuja to help us navigate some of these points. Good evening to you, and thank you so much for joining the conversation.
Thank you very much for having me. Good evening, Nigerians.
Right. Where do you stand on this? Do you think there's something to discuss here? Because the presidency or the federal government generally is saying that, listen, this is just a regular occurrence. There's nothing difficult about understanding why the vice president and the president are not in Nigeria at the moment, both at the same time, and they're doing some engagements on the international scene. Where do you stand on this?
Well, for me, I think it will begin by saying that it's a bad template. That it has happened before and that it is still happening does not really suggest that it is something that we must encourage. And I find it quite worrisome that the two highest political leadership of this country at the time have become very unfortunately, symbolically, physically absent on a regular. And I find this quite worrisome. And I think, again, for a country that is actually struggling with some certain accountability deficit, that there are no individuals on the ground that will offer some kind of directives and leadership. Secondly, is that, to be very honest, we have made consistent efforts to be able to demonstrate now, look, yes, technology has made it very easy, but leadership goes beyond issuing instructions and issuing some sort of directives from diaspora. And again, it is about how you find your presence in an ability to provide productivity for the country, considering that we are going through quite a whole lot of issues and challenges at the moment. And the spokesperson of the president has said that, well, look, that the governance and government is on autopilot. And I find that quite insulting on the average Nigerian mind. That you say, this is a country where we are currently facing a lot of crises as it borders on issues of flood, governance deficit, the collapse of the national grid, economic setback, and all the likes. And I think, again, it is not the best time to begin to globetrot. The third point for me to quickly make here is that as part of on-end governance promises that the president had made, he said, look, that they were going to cut international trips. And as part of efforts to also support the End Bad Governance campaign, is that they will reduce some level of high-frequent international travels because they believe very clearly that this is going to put pressure on the treasury. And as part of their own structural adjustment, that they were going to also find those little efforts to adjust to reality. And then again, except if it is strategic and very important, they will not be frequent in international travel. But what we have seen is on the contrary, where in 91 days, just in the past 18 months, that the president and the vice president had actually junkets and left the country on the regular. I think this is not regular. It is reducing productivity. It is putting pressure on the public treasury. And again, the legitimacy of political leadership is actually under question. And I think that is very unfortunate, just to say but a few.
Yeah, let's talk about the pressure on the purse, because in the 2024 budget, 18.7 billion naira has already been allocated for presidential visits. And so far, the president and the vice president have been to at least 16 countries so far from the 1 year, 7-month-old administration of the country. Talk to me about the rewards or the value for some of these trips. I mean, the president has significantly taken more private visits then he has taken, official engagement visits to some of these countries, inaugurations, and so on and so forth. But the federal government wants us to believe, the Tinubu administration wants Nigerians to believe that these visits are not just about fanfare. They will bear fruit in the near future. Do you share that optimism that we're going to get value for money in the long run?
Unfortunately, I don't. And for me, unfortunately, I don't, and that is because, again, if you must have international trips that are very productive and are going to yield some level of results, it therefore means that there must be some kind of bilateral and very consistent negotiation, and it therefore means that you need to prepare the soil. Look, it is just, there are some procedure that you must engage. One is that you must have a field. You must prepare the field. You must till the ground, and of course you must nurse it. We run an economy and a system that is not attractive for any foreign direct investment. One, our electricity is not even viable. Two is that our macroeconomic indicators are not looking well. Three is that the real sector of the economy is actually running below installed capacity. Four is that the level of industrialization and the entire regulation is very faulty. Just a few days ago, we listened very carefully to the Davido's father when he mentioned his $2 billion investment, and the kind of confrontations that he got from public officials about how that was not going to be possible. That was a local investor who was bringing in $2 billion to support electricity in what he referred to as the biggest thermal power station in the country that was going to generate about 1,200 megawatts. But that was a local investor. And tell me how very much attractive would the locality and the local ecosystem be for a foreign investor? We do not have anything that currently attracts. The only thing that attracts individuals to this country now is just illegality, illegal mining. Go to the South. You'll find a lot of illegal mining of timbers happening, logs in heavy form, going straight to the high sea, and they take them off to Turkey and they recycle them back as very sweet furnitures. And then, of course, we all celebrate them in big homes. Go to the Northwest, heavy mining, illegal mining. Go to the North Central. Minings are happening. What exactly is government doing around all of this? These are the only things that are happening or that is thriving in this country at the moment. And of course, for you to be able to get all of these things done, you continue to influence violence and of course divide locals against each other. But you cannot tell me that in 18 months you have not had one multilateral or bilateral agreement that we can say of a truth this has happened. We had a conversation around our discussion with the UAE, and we had several narratives around how those things fare. Initially it was all rules, then we had some kind of different narratives around it. My question remains, if this was adding value, I think we will be less interested and we will actually bask in the euphoria of the values they bring. But I can guarantee you, it has not added to the macroeconomic indicators. It has not added to the quality of lives. It has not added to the quality of livelihood of any average Nigerian. And I'm wondering, what exactly would that be? We wait to listen, but I can guarantee you that this is not in any way very close. Maybe they should tell us the inventory and give us the evidence, suggest and buttress that all of these things are indeed adding significant value to governance. Perhaps we would agree. But just telling us that the country is on autopilot, that anybody from anywhere and any part of the world can actually rule and issue instruction, I think governance had gone far beyond that. And we must not allow ourselves to be retarded or go backward just because we want to be politically correct. We must actually speak truth to power and tell the president and the vice president to please be stable and sit through and actually discharge their duty for which they were actually elected to do.
We understand that the vice president is going to be only out of the country for the next 48 hours or so, and that is as far as the official statement goes. But the president is on leave, and one would say that it is his legal right to actually decide where to spend his leave. He's not necessarily active officially to the best of our understanding. But in talking about this being a part of the governance process, many have said, especially in defense of the federal government, that while the timing might not necessarily be ripe for this kind of expenditure, but looking at the precarious situation that we're in right now, we need those global investments. We need to bring in more from the international community so that we can stop the bleeding of the economy and find a way towards recovery and expansion so that we can create the jobs and, of course, get the economy going again. That this is the price that we have to pay for that. And sometimes when the president goes and negotiates these deals himself, it actually makes a lot more sense than sending a delegation. What do you have to say about that argument? I think we've lost our connection to Mr. Salaudeen, but we're going to work it out. We have a couple of minutes to spare in case you just joined the conversation. We were talking about the fact that the president and the vice president are both out of the country. The president is still on leave. We understand that he's in France. But also the vice president over the past 24 hours has left the shores of Nigeria for an official engagement. And as you can imagine, this move has divided a lot of people. I believe we have Mr. Salaudeen back online. So the question was, this is the price of admission. This is the price we have to pay for Nigeria to reconnect with the global community, to try to woo investors into the country. And the president and the vice president traveling every now and then is just something that we have to accept in order for things to happen. What are your thoughts about that?
Sorry, can you take that question again? I lost you for a moment.
Yeah, the question in essence is, this is a necessity. If we're trying to bring foreign direct investment, the best person or persons to sell the Nigerian economy is the president and the vice president. And there's nothing wrong if it's going to cost us a few billion naira to finance their travels.
If I get you correctly, is that the president and the vice president are those who are strategically positioned to attract investment into the country, if that was what you meant to say. But yes, those are the guys who have the mandate to do so. But again, my point is that what exactly are we marketing? We must have a very strong marketing tool and plan for the country. My question is, secondly, is what sector exactly are we marketing? Are we marketing the real sector of the economy, manufacturing, where we have had droves of industries relocating from the country to neighboring country because of the inability to function, because of the inability to plan, because of the inconsistency of the naira, because of the inconsistency of the forex exchange. So what sector exactly are we marketing? Are we marketing manufacturing, agro industries? Is that exactly what we are putting on the table? Are we marketing whatever thing it is that we are marketing? I think, again, it is very important that we need to really know what exactly we are marketing and what exactly should be the attraction to anyone who is coming into the country. Yes, they are the ones who go. They are the ones who have that particular mandate. They are the ones who have that particular strategic thinking to be able to say to investors, these areas of the economy we have actually significantly developed in the last 18 months. And we are hoping that by the time you come, you'll be able to add value locally. But again, to be very honest, I cannot, from where I'm seated, look at any sector currently and say, okay, this particular sector has done very well. Currently, we know what the price of market says about rice in the market. I mean, I don't know what exactly an investor wants to come and invest in that area. Is it in the area of over electricity? Yes, we just heard an investor who is local and has told us some of the confrontations and altercations he had just because he was putting in that sort of investment. So my question is, yes, despite the fact that foreign trips are necessary to be able to expand our own horizon, there is no nation that functions in isolation. The question remains, each time these trips happen, what are the follow-up effects and how does this translate into the lives of any average Nigerian. If those chains can be constructed in an efficient manner that translates into our own daily bearing, I think we won't have any problem with that. But the problem we have is that if we continue to junket, and in our junketing, it is not adding value, I think that is where we have a problem, and that in itself is where the issue really lies.
All right. And on that particular point, Mr. Salaudeen Hashim, thank you most kindly for adding your voice to this conversation. I appreciate you very much for taking the time and for being a part of Daily Politics tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, and that is our show for you tonight. Thank you most kindly for joining us. Daily Politics will be back tomorrow, live and exclusive at 8 p.m. as always. Feel free to be a part of it. Here's a quick reminder, you can follow us across our social media platforms just to stay in touch. Also visit our website, trusttv.com. My name is Abdullahi Ahmed. From myself and the rest of the team, thank you for your time and good night.